The Spirit's Book, containing the principles of the Spiritist doctrine concerning the immortality of the soul, the nature of spirits and their relationships with humankind, moral laws, the present life, the future life, and the destiny of humanity, according to the teachings given by highly evolved spirits through several mediums, received and coordinated by Allan Kardec. Part 2. The Spirit World, or the World of Spirits. Chapter 8. The Intervention of Spirits in the Corporeal World. The reading of our thoughts by spirits.
Can spirits see everything we do?
They can, because you are constantly surrounded by them. Nonetheless, they see only those things to which they direct their attention. They are not concerned about things that do not interest them.
Can spirits know our most secret thoughts?
They often know about what you would like to conceal even from yourselves. Neither actions nor thoughts can be concealed from them.
So it would seem easier to conceal something from a person while he or she is alive than to do so after he or she has died.
Certainly, and when you think you are well hidden, you often have a crowd of spirits around you watching you.
What do the spirits who surround and observe us think about us?
That depends. Frivolous spirits laugh at the little annoyances they cause you and they scoff at your impatience. Serious spirits, on the other hand, pity your imperfections and try to help you.
The concealed influence of spirits on our thoughts and actions.
Do spirits have any influence on our thoughts and actions?
Their influence on you in this regard is greater than you suppose, for very frequently it is they who guide you.
Do we have our own thoughts plus others that are suggested to us?
Your soul is a spirit who thinks by itself. Nevertheless, you must have noticed that many thoughts occur to you all at the same time with regards to the same subject, and that they frequently contradict one another. Well, they are always a combination of your own ideas and other spirits' ideas, and this is what renders you uncertain. You have several ideas within your mind battling it out with each other.
How can we distinguish between our own thoughts and those suggested to us?
When a thought is suggested to you, it is like a voice speaking to you. Your own thoughts are usually those that occur to you at first impulse. Actually, you should not concern yourselves with such a distinction, and it is often more useful not even to know about it. You act more freely. If you make the right decision, you will act more willingly. If you make the wrong one, your responsibility will be greater.
Do individuals of intelligence and genius always draw their ideas from within themselves?
Their ideas sometimes arise from their own spirits, but frequently they are suggested to them by other spirits who deem them capable of understanding them and worthy of transmitting them. When such individuals cannot find ideas within themselves, they appeal for inspiration. They are making an evocation without even suspecting it.
It is sometimes said that the first impulse is always the best. Is this correct?
It can be good or bad, according to the nature of the incarnate spirit. It is always good for the one who listens to good inspirations.
How can we tell if a suggested thought comes from a good or a bad spirit?
Study the matter. Good spirits give only good advice. It is your responsibility to make the distinction.
For what purpose do imperfect spirits induce us to wrongdoing?
To make you suffer as they themselves do.
What kinds of suffering do they wish to inflict on us?
Those that result from belonging to a lower order and from being far from God.
Why does God permit spirits to incite us to wrongdoing?
Imperfect spirits are meant as instruments for testing the faith and constancy of individuals in the practice of the good. As a spirit, you must progress in the knowledge of the infinite. That is why you experience the trials of wrongdoing in order to arrive at the good. Our mission is to place you upon the upright path. When bad influences act on you, however, it is you yourself who call to them. out of your desire for wrongdoing. Little evolved spirits come to help you in wrongdoing when you have the will to commit it. However, they cannot help you in it, except when you actually desire to indulge in it. If you were inclined to murder, very well, there will be a swarm of spirits who will maintain that thought in your mind. However, there will also be others who will try to influence you for good. And this re-equalizes the balance, leaving you as master of yourself.
Can people avoid the influence of spirits who incite them to wrongdoing?
Yes, because they only attach themselves to those who solicit them with their desires or attract them with their thoughts.
Do spirits whose influence is repelled by an individual will finally give up on their attempts?
What else could they do? When they have nothing to do, they leave. Nevertheless, they attentively watch for a favorable moment, as the cat attentively watches the mouse.
By what means can we neutralize the influence of bad spirits?
By doing good and placing all your trust in God, you repel their influence and you destroy the power they desire to have over you. Guard yourselves against listening to the suggestions of spirits who excite wrongful thoughts in your mind. Those who incite discord and arouse in you all the base passions. Above all, distrust spirits who flatter your pride, for they are attacked. That is why Jesus teaches you to say in the Lord's Prayer, Lord, do not let us fall into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Have the spirits who seek to lead us into wrongdoing and who thus put our moral firmness to the test received a mission to do this? And if it is in fact a mission for them to fulfill, will they be responsible for doing so?
Spirits never receive a mission to practice wrongdoing. When they do wrongful deeds, it is by their own will, and they will have to suffer the consequences. God may let them test you, but never directly orders them to. It is your responsibility to repel them.
When we experience a sensation of anguish, of indefinable anxiety or inner satisfaction without a known cause, does it result solely from our physical disposition at the time?
It is almost always the effect of communications you have with spirits without even suspecting it, or those you have had with them during sleep.
Are spirits who want to incite us to wrongdoing limited to taking advantage of the circumstances in which we find ourselves? Or can they create such circumstances?
They may take advantage of a circumstance, but frequently they cause it, pushing you without your being aware of it towards the object of your mission. Thus, for example, a man finds a quantity of money by the road. Spirits have not placed the money there, but they may have instilled in the man the thought of going in that direction. Then, they suggest he keep the money, while others suggest he return it to its rightful owner. The same process happens with all other temptations.
The possessed.
Can a spirit temporarily take over the corporeal envelope of a living person? In other words, can it enter an animate body and replace the spirit incarnated in it?
A spirit does not enter a body as you enter a house. Instead, it associates with an incarnate spirit who has its same defects and qualities so that they can both act conjointly. Nevertheless, it is always the incarnate spirit who acts upon the matter enveloping it and according to its own wishes. A spirit cannot replace the one who is incarnate because the spirit is connected to the body until the time set for the end of its material existence.
If there is no such thing as possession per se, that is, the cohabitation of two spirits in the same body, may a spirit nonetheless find itself dependent on another spirit so that it sees itself subjugated or obsessed by it to such a degree that its own will is in some way paralyzed?
Yes, and these are the truly possessed. You must understand, however, that this kind of domination never occurs without the participation of the one who suffers it, either through weakness or desire. Epileptics and insane individuals have often been taken as being possessed, but they are in need of a doctor rather than an exorcist.
Can these persons by themselves repel such bad spirits and free themselves from their domination?
You can always rid yourself of any burden When you have a firm will,
couldn't it be the case that the obsession by a bad spirit is such that the subjugated person does not even perceive it? Couldn't a third person put an end to the subjection, and in such a case, what role should he or she play?
if the individual is morally upright, his or her willpower may help by appealing to the cooperation of good spirits, because the more moral a person is, the more power that person has regarding imperfect spirits in order to repel them, and regarding good ones in order to attract them. Nevertheless, this third person will be completely powerless if the one who is subjugated does not cooperate. After all, there are persons who take delight in a dependence that satisfies their tastes and desires. In all cases, however, those who do not have a pure heart cannot have any influence whatsoever. Good spirits ignore them, and bad ones do not fear them.
Are exorcism formulas at all effective against bad spirits?
Though when these spirits see anyone who takes such formulas seriously, they laugh and persevere.
There are persons animated by good intentions, but who are obsessed nevertheless. What are the best means for them to free themselves from obsessing spirits?
Tire their patience, pay no attention to their suggestions, and show them that they are wasting their time. Then, when they see they can do nothing, they will withdraw.
What should be thought about the expulsion of demons spoken of in the Gospel?
That depends on the interpretation. If you mean by demon a bad spirit who subjugates an individual, when its influence is destroyed, it will truly be expelled. If you attribute an illness to a demon, when you have cured the sickness, you will also have expelled the demon. A thing may be true or false according to the meaning given to the words. The greatest truths may seem absurd when only the form is observed, and when an allegory is taken for reality. Understand this well and try to remember it, because it is of universal application.
Convulsionaries.
Do spirits play any role in the phenomena produced among individuals called convulsionaries?
Yes, a very large one, as does magnetism, its primary source. But charlatanism has frequently exploited and exaggerated the phenomena, thereby making them appear to be ridiculous.
In general, of what nature are the spirits who concur in these types of phenomena?
They are little evolved. Do you believe that evolved spirits would enjoy such things?
How can the abnormal state of convulsionaries and hysterical persons suddenly extend to an entire population?
By sympathetic effect. Mental dispositions are communicated more easily in certain cases. You are not such a stranger to the effects of magnetism that you cannot understand this fact, and the role certain spirits play in it through their sympathy with those who cause them.
What is the cause of the physical insensitivity displayed in certain convulsionaries and other individuals submitted to the most atrocious tortures?
In some, it is an exclusively magnetic effect, acting on the nervous system in the same manner as certain substances. In others, the exaltation of thought deadens sensitivity because life seems to have withdrawn from the body in order to be transferred to the spirit. Don't you know that when the spirit is intensely concerned with something, the body does not feel, hear, or see?
The affection of spirits for certain individuals.
Do spirits affectionately prefer certain persons?
Good spirits sympathize with moral individuals or those who are susceptible to improving themselves. Low-order spirits with wicked individuals or those who may become such. Hence, their affection is the result of a similarity of sentiment.
Is the affection of spirits for certain persons exclusively moral?
True affection has nothing carnal about it. But when a spirit attaches itself to a particular person, it is not always out of affection. A remembrance of human passions can have a hand in it.
Do spirits take an interest in our misfortunes and prosperity? Are those who wish us well concerned about the afflictions we experience in life?
Good spirits do all the good they can, and they feel happy for your joys. They are concerned about your afflictions when you do not bear them with resignation, because then they produce no good results for you. You carry on like patients who reject the bitter medicine meant to heal them.
What kind of afflictions cause spirits to be concerned about us most? Physically caused afflictions or morally caused ones?
Your selfishness and hard-heartedness, everything else derives from these. They laugh at all your imaginary ills born from pride and ambition, but they rejoice in those that will shorten the length of your trial.
Do our relatives and friends who have preceded us into the other life have more sympathy for us than spirits who are strangers?
Of course, and as spirits they frequently protect you according to their abilities.
Are they sensitive to our affections for them?
Very sensitive, but they forget those who forget them.
Guardian angels, protector, familiar or sympathetic spirits.
Are there spirits who link themselves to particular individuals in order to protect them?
Yes, spirit friends. What you call good spirits or guardian spirits.
What is a guardian angel?
A protector spirit of a high order.
What is the mission of protector spirits?
Their mission is that of parents towards their children, to guide their wards along the path of the good, to help them with their counsels, to console them in their afflictions, and to sustain their courage in the trials of earthly life.
Are protector spirits connected to particular individuals from birth?
From birth to death, they frequently accompany them after death in the spirit life, and even through numerous corporeal existences, because these existences are no more than very short phases in the life of a spirit.
Is the mission of a protector spirit voluntary or obligatory?
The spirit is obliged to watch over you because it has accepted the task. However, it is allowed to choose individuals who are attuned to it. For some, it is a pleasure. For others, a mission or a duty.
In linking itself to an individual, does the spirit refrain from protecting other individuals?
No, but it does so less exclusively.
Is the protector spirit indissolubly connected to the person who has been entrusted into its care?
Certain spirits often leave their position to carry out different assignments, but in such cases they are replaced.
Do protector spirits sometimes abandon their ward when the latter is heedless of their warnings?
They withdraw when they see that their counsels are useless and that the ward's will is set on submitting to the influence of little evolved spirits. They do not abandon them entirely, though, and always make themselves heard. Their wards are the ones who shut their ears. Their protectors return as soon as they are called. If there is a doctrine that should convert the most incredulous by its charm and sweetness, it is that of guardian angels. Isn't it a very consoling idea to know that you always have at your side beings who are more evolved than you, who are always there to counsel, sustain, and aid you in scaling the rugged mountain of the good, who are more reliable and devoted friends than the most intimate connections that may be contracted on earth? These beings are there at God's orders. It was God who has placed them at your side. They are there out of love for God, and they fulfill a beautiful but laborious mission alongside you. Wherever you may be, your angel will be there with you, in prison, in the hospital, in dens of iniquity, in solitude. Nothing separates you from that friend whom you cannot see, but from whom your soul nonetheless receives the gentlest impulses and hears wise counsel. Why can't you understand this truth more fully? How many times it would help you in moments of crisis? How many times it would save you from bad spirits? But on the great day of accounting, this angel of the good might have to say to you, "Didn't I offer you advice? Yet you did not follow it. Didn't I show you the abyss? Yet you fell into it. I made the voice of truth resound in your conscience. Yet you followed the counsels of a lie. Instead, question your guardian angels. Establish between yourselves and them that intimate tenderness,
that reigns between best friends, do not think of hiding anything from them, for they are the eyes of God, and you cannot deceive them. Consider the future, seek to progress in this life, and your trials will be shorter and your lives happier. Come, take heart. Once and for all, avoid prejudices and ulterior motives. Enter upon the new pathway, now opening before you. Forward, forward, you have guides. Follow them. Your goal cannot fail you, for the goal is God. To those who think it impossible that truly high-order spirits could devote themselves to such a laborious task, and at all instants, we will say that we can indeed influence your souls, even though millions of miles may separate us. Space does not exist to us, and even while living on another world, our spirits retain a connection with you. We enjoy faculties that you cannot comprehend. However, you can be certain that God has not imposed a task on us that is above our strength, or that God has abandoned you alone on the earth without friends or support. All guardian angels have their wards, whom they watch over as parents watch over their children. They feel happy when they see them on the path of the good, but mourn when their counsels are despised. Do not fear tiring us with your questions. Rather, remain in contact with us always. You will thus be stronger and happier. These communications between each individual and his or her familiar spirit are what make all individuals mediums ignored today, but who will show themselves later, spreading out like an ocean without shores to sweep away disbelief and ignorance. People of learning, teach. People of talent, educate your brothers and sisters. Without knowing it, the work you accomplish is Christ's work, which God has imposed on you. Why has God granted you intelligence and knowledge, if not to share them with your brothers and sisters, to enable them to progress on the path of joy and eternal blessedness?
Can spirits who abandon their wards and no longer do them good do them evil instead?
Good spirits never do evil. They leave that to those who take their place, and then you blame fate for the misfortunes that overwhelm you, whereas you yourselves are actually to blame.
Can protector spirits leave their wards at the mercy of spirits who might harm them?
There is unity among bad spirits for neutralizing the action of the good ones. But if wards would so desire, they could restore the link to their good spirit. The good spirit may find a more willing person somewhere else to help in the meantime, while waiting for an opportunity to return to its ward.
When protector spirits allow their wards to be led astray in life, is it because they are powerless to confront malevolent spirits?
It is not because they are powerless, but because they do not want to. Their wards emerge from their trials more evolved and more learned. Their protector spirits assist them with their counsels through the good thoughts they suggest, but which, unfortunately, are not always heeded. It is nothing but human weakness, carelessness, or pride that concedes power to bad spirits. Their power over you comes solely from the fact that you do not offer them any resistance.
Are protector spirits with their wards all the time? Aren't there circumstances where they may lose sight of them without abandoning them?
There are circumstances in which the presence of the protector spirit next to its ward is not necessary.
Does a time come in which a spirit no longer needs its guardian angel?
Yes, when it reaches the level at which it can guide itself, just as the time comes in which the student no longer needs the master, but this does not happen on the earth.
Why is the action of spirits in our lives so secretive? When they are protecting us, why don't they do so openly?
If you counted on their support all the time, you would not act by yourselves, and your spirit would not progress. In order for it to advance, it needs experience, and experience must often be acquired at its own expense. It must exert its own volition. Otherwise, it would be like a small child who is not allowed to walk by him or herself. The action of the spirits who wish you well always occurs in such a way so as not to hamper your free will. For if you did not have any responsibility, you would not progress on the path that must lead you towards God. Since they do not see who is helping them, humans rely on their own efforts. Their guides watch over them nevertheless, and from time to time warn them of danger.
Do the protector spirits who succeed in leading their ward along the path of the good experience any good for themselves?
It is a merit that will be taken into account, whether for their advancement or their happiness. They feel happy when they see their efforts crowned with success. It is a triumph for them, as when a mentor exults at the success of his or her disciple.
Are they responsible if their efforts are unsuccessful?
No, because they have done all they could.
Don't protector spirits suffer when they see their wards following an immoral path in spite of their warning? And isn't it a cause of distress for them?
They suffer from their wards' misdeeds, and they pity them, but this affliction has none of the anguish of earthly parenthood, because they know that there is a remedy for the wrongdoing, and that what is not done today will be done tomorrow.
Could we ever know the name of our protector spirit or guardian angel?
Why do you want to know names that do not exist for you? Do you believe there are only spirits with whom you are familiar?
But how can we invoke our protector spirit if we do not know its name?
Give it any name you please, that of a high-order spirit for whom you have sympathy or veneration. Your protector will answer to that name, for all good spirits are kin and mutually assist each other.
Are protector spirits who employ well-known names always those of the actual individuals who had those names?
No, but they are spirits who are sympathetic to them and who often come at their orders. You require a name, therefore they employ one that will inspire your trust. When you cannot personally carry out a mission, you send someone whom you trust and who acts in your name.
When we return to the spirit life, will we recognize our protector spirit?
Yes, because you frequently knew it before your incarnation.
Do protector spirits all belong to the order of highly evolved spirits? Can they sometimes be found among average orders? Can a father, for example, become the protector spirit of his child?
He can, but protection presupposes a certain degree of elevation, and additionally, a power or virtue granted by God. A father who protects his child may himself be assisted by a more evolved spirit.
Can spirits who have left the earth under good circumstances always protect those whom they loved and who have survived them?
Their power is more or less restricted. The position in which they find themselves does not always allow them full freedom of action.
Do humans in the primitive state or in the state of moral impurity also have protector spirits? So, are these spirits of an order as elevated as those of more advanced humans?
All individuals have a spirit who watches over them, but such a mission is relative to its purpose. You do not give a professor of philosophy to a child who is just learning to read. The progress of the familiar spirit follows that of the spirit it protects. Having a more highly evolved spirit who watches over you, you in turn may become the protector of a spirit who is less evolved than you, and the progress you help that spirit make will contribute to your own advancement. God does not require of a spirit more than what its nature and the degree at which it has arrived will allow.
When a discarnate father who has been watching over his child reincarnates, does he still continue to do so?
That is a more difficult situation, but in a moment of freedom, he may ask that a sympathetic spirit assist him in this mission. However, spirits only accept missions they can carry out to the end. Incarnate spirits, especially on worlds where existence is quite material, are too dominated by their physical body to be able to devote themselves entirely to others, that is, to assist them personally. That is why those who are not sufficiently evolved are themselves assisted by spirits who are more evolved, so that if one fails for whatever reason, it will be replaced by another.
Besides our protector spirit, is a bad spirit connected to each one of us for the purpose of leading us into wrongdoing and for providing us an opportunity to struggle with good and evil?
Connected is not the right term. It is certainly true that bad spirits try to draw individuals away from the moral road when they find the opportunity. However, when one of them connects itself to an individual, it does so of its own accord because it hopes to be
listened to. This gives rise to a struggle between the good and the bad spirit, and the one whose influence the individual has heeded will win.
May we have several protector spirits?
All individuals always have sympathetic spirits who are more advanced or less so, who dedicate their affection to them and who take an interest in them. There are also those who help them in wrongdoing.
Do sympathetic spirits act in virtue of a mission?
Sometimes they may have a temporary mission, but generally they are only attracted due to a similarity of thought and sentiment in good or evil.
So it is correct to assume that sympathetic spirits may be either good or bad.
Yes, humans will always encounter spirits who sympathize with them, whatever their character may be.
Are familiar spirits the same as sympathetic spirits or protector spirits?
There are many, many gradations of protection and sympathy. Give to them whatever names you desire. The familiar spirit, however, is usually a friend of the home.
What should be thought of persons who seem to attach themselves to others in order to lead them inevitably into perdition, or on the other hand, to guide them along the path of the good?
Some persons exert a certain effect on others. They hold a kind of spell over them that seems irresistible. When this happens for ill, they are in fact bad spirits whom other bad spirits employ in order to better subjugate their victims. God may permit this in order to test them.
Could our good spirit or a bad one incarnate in order to follow us more directly in life?
This sometimes happens, but they frequently entrust this task to incarnate spirits who are sympathetic with them.
Are there spirits who attach themselves to an entire family in order to protect it?
Some spirits link themselves to the members of the same family who live together and are united by affection. However, do not believe in spirit protectors of race pride.
Do groups of individuals such as societies, cities, and nations have their own special protector spirits?
Yes, because such groups are collective individualities that are headed towards a common objective and therefore have the need of higher direction.
Are the protector spirits of groups of a more advanced nature than those who are linked to individuals?
Everything is relative to the degree of advancement, whether of groups or of individuals.
May certain spirits help the arts to progress by watching over those involved in them?
There are special protector spirits who assist those who invoke them and whom they deem worthy. But what could you expect them to do for those who deem themselves to be something, whereas in fact they are not? They cannot make the blind see or the deaf hear.
Is a presentiment always a warning from a protector spirit?
A presentiment can be the inner and secret counsel of a spirit who wishes you well. It can also be an intuition about a choice made prior to incarnation. It is the voice of instinct. Before incarnating, a spirit has knowledge of the principal phases of its coming existence, i.e., the kind of trials in which it will be engaged. When these are of a marked character, it preserves a type of impression in its inner consciousness, and this impression, the voice of instinct, awakens when the moment arrives. It then becomes a presentiment.
Presentiments and the voice of instinct are always somewhat vague. What should we do when we are uncertain?
When in doubt, invoke your good spirit or pray to God, our supreme creator, to send you a divine messenger, one of us.
Do the warnings of our protector spirits have our moral conduct as their sole objective, or our conduct regarding the things of our private life as well?
Everything they seek to enable you to live in the best way possible, but you frequently shut your ears to their good warnings, and you thus make yourselves unhappy through your own fault.
The influence of spirits on the events of life.
Do spirits exert any influence on the events of life?
Certainly, because they counsel you.
Do they exert this influence in any other way besides the thoughts they suggest? Do they act directly in the outcome of things?
Yes, but they never act outside natural laws.
Since spirits can act upon matter, can they cause certain effects with the aim of producing a given outcome? For example, a man's time is up. He climbs a ladder, the ladder breaks, and he dies from the fall. Did spirits cause the ladder to break so that the man's fate would be fulfilled?
It is certainly true that spirits have an influence on matter, but they do so according to the laws of nature, and not to derogate from them by causing an unexpected event at a given moment and contrary to such laws. In the example you have just mentioned, the ladder breaks because it is rotten or because it is not strong enough to support the man's weight. If it were the man's fate to die in this way, spirits would inspire him with the thought of climbing the ladder, which would then break under his weight. Thus, his death would stem from a natural cause without the need for any kind of miracle.
Let us take another example, but one in which the natural state of matter does not intervene. A man is destined to die from lightning. He seeks refuge under a tree, lightning strikes it and he dies. Did spirits cause the lightning and direct it at him?
It is still the same thing. The lightning struck the tree at that particular moment because the event happened according to the laws of nature. The lightning was not directed at the tree because the man was under it, but rather he was given the inspiration to take refuge under the tree where lightning would strike. The tree would have been struck anyway, whether the man had been under it or not.
An ill-intentioned man shoots at another, but the bullet barely grazes him. Could a benevolent spirit have deflected the shot?
If the individual was not meant to be struck, the benevolent spirit may have inspired him with the thought of moving out of its path, or it may have confounded his enemy in such a way as to make him miss. Once the bullet is on its way, however, it must follow the line of its trajectory.
What should be thought about magic bullets that are referred to in certain legends, and which fatality hit their mark?
Pure imagination. Humans delight in the extraordinary, but they are not content with the marvels of nature.
May the spirits who direct the events of life be thwarted by spirits who have desires to the contrary?
What God has willed must occur. If there is any delay or hindrance, it is the divine will.
Mightn't frivolous and mocking spirits cause the little difficulties that undo our plans and upset our calculations? In other words, aren't they the authors of what we commonly call the petty troubles of human life?
They take pleasure in such annoyances which are trials for you and are meant to try your patience, but they stop when they see that nothing comes of it. However, it would neither be just nor correct to blame them for all your frustrations, of which you yourselves are the main authors through your own carelessness. Thus, if your dish breaks, it was probably due more to your clumsiness than the fault of spirits.
Do spirits who cause annoyances behave in such a manner as a result of personal animosity? Or do they attack the first person whom they meet out of simple malice and without any set motive?
They act from both motives. Sometimes they are enemies whom you have made in this life or in a previous one, and who pursue you as a result. At other times, there is no motive.
Is the rancor of the people that have harmed us on earth extinguished with their corporeal life?
They often realize the injustice and the wrong they have done, but if God allows them, they will continue to pursue you in their hatred in order to test you further.
Is there a way to put an end to it, and if so, by what means?
Yes, by praying for them and by paying back their evil with good. That way they will end up comprehending their errors. In all cases, if you know how to place yourselves above their schemes, they will cease them upon seeing they have gained nothing from them.
Do spirits have the power to divert misfortunes from certain persons and to attract prosperity to them instead?
Not entirely, because there are misfortunes that belong to the designs of providence. Nevertheless, they lessen your pain by giving you patience and resignation. Also, be aware that it frequently depends on you yourselves to divert such misfortunes, or at least to mitigate them. God has given you intelligence so that you may use it, and it is especially in this way that spirits help you by suggesting favorable thoughts to you, but they only help those who know how to help themselves. That is the meaning of the words seek and you will find, knock and it will be open to you. Moreover, what looks like misfortune to you is not always such in reality. Frequently, something good will result from it that is far better, but that is what you do not comprehend because you think only of the present moment or of your own selves.
Can spirits enable us to obtain the gifts of fortune if we ask them to?
Sometimes, as a trial. Most often, however, they will refuse, just as you would refuse a child's inconsiderate request.
When obstacles seem to fatally inflict our projects, is it because of the influence of some spirit?
It is sometimes because of the influence of a spirit, other times, and more frequently, it is because you yourselves have mismanaged your projects. Position and character have much to do with it, and if you persist in following a path that is not right for you, spirits have nothing to do with it. You yourselves become your own bad spirit.
When something fortunate happens to us, should we thank our protector spirit?
Above all, thank God, without whose permission nothing takes place. Afterwards, thank the good spirits who were God's agents.
Nevertheless, there are many people who neither pray nor give thanks, but for whom everything turns out well anyway.
Yes, but it is necessary to see the end. They will pay dearly for this temporary, undeserved happiness. For the more they have received, the more they will have to render account for it.
The action of spirits on the phenomena of nature.
Are the great phenomena of nature those considered as perturbations of the elements due to fortuitous causes, or do they all have a providential purpose?
Everything has a reason for being, and nothing occurs without God's permission.
Do these phenomena always have humankind as their objective?
Sometimes they occur for a reason directly related to humankind, but most frequently they have no other purpose than to re-establish the balance and harmony of the physical forces of nature.
We understand perfectly well that God's will is the primary cause in these as in all things. But since we know that spirits can in fact act upon matter and that they are agents of God's will, we would ask whether some among them might not exert an influence over the elements in order to rouse, calm, or direct them.
But that is obvious. It cannot be otherwise. God does not act directly on nature, but has devoted agents on every degree of the world's scales.
The mythology of the ancients is entirely based on spiritist ideas, with the difference that they regarded spirits as deities, and they represented those gods or spirits as having special attributes. Thus, some were in charge of the wind, others the lightning, while others presided over vegetation, etc. Is this belief entirely without foundation?
It is well-founded, yet it is still very far from the truth.
Along the same lines, are there spirits inhabiting the Earth's interior, presiding over geological phenomena?
Such spirits do not actually inhabit the earth, but they preside over and direct its phenomena according to their particular attributes. Someday you will have an explanation for all these phenomena, and you will comprehend them better.
Do the spirits who preside over the phenomena of nature form a special category in the spirit world? Are they separate beings, or are they spirits who have been incarnated like us?
Who will be or who have been.
Do these spirits belong to the higher or lower orders of the spirit hierarchy?
That depends on whether their role is more material or intelligent, or less some command, others execute. Those who perform material functions are always of a lower order among spirits, just as among human beings.
In the production of certain phenomena storms, for example, does a single spirit act, or do they gather en masse?
In enormous masses.
Do the spirits who act upon the phenomena of nature do so with full awareness and in virtue of their free will, or out of an instinctive and unreasoning impulse?
Some in one way, others in the other. Let us make a comparison. Consider the myriads of animals that little by little build up islands and archipelagos in the ocean. Do you believe that there is no providential purpose in this, and that this transformation of the surface of the globe is not necessary for its overall harmony? Yet all this is accomplished by animals of the lowest degree while they are providing for their own needs, and without perceiving that they are God's instruments. In the same way, the least advanced spirits are useful to the general whole while preparing for life, and before having full awareness of their acts and free will, they act upon certain phenomena in which they are the unwitting agents. At first, they execute. Later, when their intelligence is more developed, they command and direct the matters of the material world. Still later, they direct the things of the moral world. Hence, everything is useful, everything in nature is linked together, from the primitive atom to the archangel, who also began as only an atom, an admirable law of harmony which your limited minds cannot yet grasp in its entirety.
Spirits during battle.
During battle, are there spirits who assist in it and who aid each of the forces in the fight?
Yes, and who stimulate their courage.
In war, justice is always on one side only. How can spirits support the one that is in the wrong?
You know perfectly well that there are spirits who seek only discord and destruction. For them, war is war. The justness of the cause means little to them.
Can certain spirits influence generals in the conception of their plans for a particular campaign?
Absolutely. Spirits can influence them in this as in all conceptions.
Can bad spirits suggest faulty plans to them in order to lead them to defeat?
Yes, but don't they have free will? If their judgment does not enable them to distinguish a good idea from a bad one, they will suffer the consequences and would do better at obeying than commanding.
Can generals sometimes be guided by a type of second sight, an intuitive perception that shows them the result of their strategies beforehand?
That is frequently what happens with geniuses. It is what they call inspiration, and it enables them to act with a type of certainty. This inspiration comes to them from the spirits who guide them and who use the faculties with which such individuals have been endowed.
In the heat of combat, what happens to the spirits of those who die? Are they still interested in the battle after death?
Some continue to be interested, others withdraw.
After death, do the spirits of those who had fought each other while alive still regard one another as enemies and continue to be hostile toward each other?
In such moments, spirits are never calm. At first, they may still hate their enemies and even pursue them, but when they regain their composure, they see that their animosity no longer has any motive. Nevertheless, they may retain greater or lesser traces of it, depending on their character.
Do they still hear the din of the battle?
Yes, perfectly.
Do spirits who calmly watch a battle as spectators witness the separation of soul from body? How does this phenomenon appear to them?
Very few deaths are truly instantaneous. Most of the time, a spirit whose body has been mortally wounded is not aware of it at the time. Only when consciousness begins to return can the spirit be seen moving beside its corpse. This appears so natural that the sight of the dead body lying there does not produce any disagreeable effect. All life having been transferred into the spirit, only the spirit attracts attention, and it is the spirit with whom spectators converse or to whom they give orders.
Pacts.
Is there any kind of truth to pacts being formed with bad spirits?
No, there are no such pacts. However, a bad nature may be attuned to bad spirits. For example, you want to torment your neighbor, but you do not know how to proceed. Thus, you call low-order spirits who, like you, desire only harm. In return for their help, they want you to help them in their own wrongful designs. However, this does not mean that your neighbor cannot be freed from them by an opposing appeal and by an action of the will. Those who desire to commit a wrongful act simply for the sake of doing harm call bad spirits to their aid and then become obliged to serve them in turn because these spirits need them for the wrongful things they themselves desire to do. It is only in this that a pact consists.
What is the meaning of the fantastic fables according to which certain individuals have sold their soul to Satan in exchange for certain favors?
All fables contain a teaching and a moral. Your error is in taking them literally. This one is an allegory that may be explained like this. Those who call bad spirits to help them obtain the gifts of fortune or any other favor rebel against providence. They renounce the mission they have received and the trials they must undergo in this world, but they will reap the consequences of it in the life to come. This does not mean their soul is condemned to suffer forever. However, instead of detaching themselves from matter, they immerse themselves deeper and deeper in it. The joys they have preferred on earth will no longer be available to them in the spirit world until they atone for their wrong through new trials that will perhaps be even greater and more painful. Out of love for material pleasures, they place themselves under the power of impure spirits. Hence, they tacitly establish a mutual pact which leads them to ruin, but which will always be easy for them to break with the assistance of good spirits if they firmly desire to do so.
Occult power, talismans, sorcerers.
Can bad people, with the aid of bad spirits to whom they are devoted, cause harm to their neighbor?
No, God would not permit it.
What is to be thought of the belief that certain individuals can cast spells?
Some persons possess a very strong magnetic power, which they may misuse if their own spirit is bad. In that case, other bad spirits might come to their aid, but do not believe in the fake magical power that exists only in the imagination of superstitious people who are ignorant of the true laws of nature. The events they cite are natural events poorly observed and, above all, poorly understood.
What may be the effect of formulas and practices with which certain persons claim to control the wills of spirits?
That of making them look ridiculous if they are of good faith. If not, they are rogues who deserve punishment. All such formulas are mere charlatanism. There is no sacramental word, no Kabbalistic sign, no talisman that has any power over spirits, because they are only attracted by thought and not by material objects.
Haven't certain spirits sometimes dictated Kabbalistic formulas?
Yes, there are spirits who indicate signs and bizarre words, or who prescribe certain acts with the help of which you perform what you call spellcasting. Nevertheless, you may be very sure that these spirits are mocking you and abusing your credulity.
Isn't it possible that those who rightly or wrongly trust in what they call the virtue of a talisman may attract a spirit by such trust, since it is their thought that acts, whereas the talisman is only a sign that helps to direct the thought?
That is the case, but the nature of the spirit attracted by such means depends on the purity of the intention and the level of the sentiments. But it is rare for those who are simple enough to believe in the virtue of a talisman not to have a material objective rather than a moral one. Whatever the case may be, this implies a narrowness and weakness of mind that gives access to imperfect and mocking spirits.
What are sorcerers?
When they are of good faith, those whom you call sorcerers are persons who possess certain faculties, such as magnetic power or second sight. Since they do things that you do not comprehend, you suppose them to be endowed with supernatural power. Haven't your learned individuals often been mistaken for sorcerers in the eyes of the ignorant?
Do certain individuals really possess the gift of healing by simple touch?
Their magnetic power may act to that extent when it is aided by purity of sentiments and an ardent desire to do good, for then good spirits come to their aid. It is necessary, however, to distrust the way stories are told by very gullible or enthusiastic individuals who are always ready to see the miraculous in the simplest and most natural things. One must always distrust the self-interested claims of persons who exploit credulity for their own profit.
Blessings and curses.
Can blessings and curses attract good or evil to those at whom they are aimed?
God does not listen to unjust curses, and those who utter them are guilty before God. Since we have two opposing tendencies, good and evil, there may be a momentary influence in these cases even upon matter. This influence never occurs, however, without God's permission, and as an increase in the trial for the one at whom it is aimed. Besides, most frequently, curses are usually aimed at the wicked, while blessings are aimed at the morally upright. Blessings or curses can never divert providence from the path of justice. Providence does not strike those who are cursed unless they are wicked, and its protection covers only those who deserve it.